Story 1. I have two older sisters, and growing up, they would always mess with me. One day, we were all below deck on a small family boat and found a deck of cards. My oldest sister turned to us and told us she had extrasensory perception, or ESP, but had never told anyone before. To prove it, she lay down on a small couch while my other sister spread the cards face down on a table much higher than the couch, so no way she could see them. My middle sister started flipping cards one by one, and every single time a card was turned over, my oldest sister called it out instantly and correctly. So I decided I'd flip the cards myself. However, it was the same result. She got everyone right. For the next 20 years, whenever I brought it up, she'd just tell me she had ESP. Then one Christmas dinner, my sisters finally confessed. Turns out there was a small mirror on the ceiling above the table. Every time a card was flipped, she just glanced up at the ceiling, looked in the mirror, and read the card. Story 2. My parents told me I had a different birthday. When I turned 16 and needed my birth certificate, I found out the truth. 24 years later, my family still celebrates the wrong birthday and insists that my birth certificate, driver's license, credit report, and prison records all have the incorrect date. Story 3. How my dad's parents died. He shot my grandmother, then drove to work and shot himself in a secluded area.
I was just 4 years old when my dad's parents died. For years, I never questioned how. When I was about 20, I learned the truth. My grandfather shot and killed my grandmother while she was napping at home. He then drove to the riverbank near his place of work and killed himself. It took days to find his body. My grandmother was found by my uncle when he got home from high school. There's still no concrete explanation, but the leading theory is that he found out he had stage 4 cancer. This was in the 1970s, so they think he didn't believe he could be cured or treated, and he didn't want my grandmother to be alone. He wasn't right in the head for most of his life, as I understand it. Very violent man.
Story 4. Chuckles, my dad, who was super religious and very marriages forever, was actually divorced once before he married my mom. Story 5. I found out when she was 80 years old that before she married my father, my mother had given up a baby for adoption when she was 19. Story 6. When I was 10, my family moved and we had to rehome our 3 dogs. One went to a family friend, another to the owner of a rescue group, and the third to a friend of a friend. We kept in decent touch with the first 2, visiting them occasionally when we travel cross-country. The third dog, however, almost immediately disappeared from my life. I never saw or heard from him again, and my parents always brushed it off, saying his family was a military family, so maybe they moved away. My dog escaped the new owner's backyard about 2 weeks after he was adopted and was struck and killed by a car. I didn't find out until about 5 years after the fact. Rest in peace, buddy. I wish you'd had a better life.
Unfortunately, saying we moved is a simplified version of the story. We were moving cross-country 3,000 miles away, where my dad would be in school full-time and unemployed, and my mom would be unemployed until she found a job. She never really did. She just did substitute teaching at schools. We were living in school housing that didn't allow pets. So it would have been irresponsible to have 3 dogs with no income, including one that had complex medical problems.
I will never respect people who rehome dogs because of a move. That's such a stupid reason to get rid of your dog. I have a 13-year-old dog who has moved with me like 7 times.
Story 7. My dad told me for 15 years that he hated the ugly clay bowl I made in 3rd grade and that he lost it. I found it last month in his safe deposit box, along with his most important documents. He just didn't want me to think he was a softie. Story 8. My ex completely fabricated her personality. She seemed like a nice enough person for a while, but slowly it started coming out. Then during the divorce, she proceeded to use every single dirty tactic possible with 0 morals. Oh, I can get more time with my daughter if I file for a restraining order. All right, I'll do that. He raped me. Oh, he's taking antidepressants because of everything I've been doing? Look, the medicine he's taking can be taken for schizophrenia. He had that. I should get full custody. I have many times his assets and make the same pay as him. Oh, I want money from his accounts that were there before we got married. She even tried to lie about events that I had recorded for my safety. It was wild. Story 9. My best friend was sleeping with the father of my 2 children, until I walked in on them, mind you.
I would never trust anyone again. I'm so sorry.
Story 10. I bought a house. The previous homeowner told me the subfloor was solid as a rock. Then I started tiling and realized the only thing holding that house together was hope and 3 layers of old linoleum. Story 11. I found out when I was in my 30s that my cousin was actually my half-sister. As revelations go, in my family anyway, it was just a big meh. My mom only told us because some other jerk in our family was blackmailing her. Yeah, it was a pretty big lie, but I made peace with it in about 5 minutes. Story 12. My ex. When I asked her, "Do you have any more credit cards I don't know about?" she said, "No." Oops. Another $40,000 with bills sent to a mailbox store around the corner. This was in addition to the $40,000 of debt I already knew about. Story 13. He led a double life and had a son with a woman that no one knew about. Not even his mom. That was a big one.
There was a lot more that he kept from me, but that was a big bombshell.
Story 14. He told me he wasn't ready for a relationship, only to find out he started dating another girl 4 days later. Story 15. The classic, I haven't been with anyone else, and there is no one else. And a final, you don't have to worry about her. Couple of months later, they're dating. So, the usual. Story 16. My ex-husband became a father with another woman while he and I were engaged. I didn't find out until 52 years later, when his son contacted me. Story 17. Saying they were in love with me when they had really fallen out of love months prior. They told me that after the breakup. Story 18. My mom died of colon cancer. After she died, I found out that she knew it was terminal, but she just didn't tell anyone, including me, the person who was taking care of her while doing online Zoom classes. This was during the pandemic. That was already pretty bad, but then my grandpa died, my mom's dad, and my grandma told my other relatives to hide it from me. I had to drop out of some classes when my mom died, and she didn't want me to miss any more school. So I didn't find out he was dead until 2 weeks after it happened. Needless to say, it's been a difficult grieving process. I'm in therapy, and I've told my remaining relatives that I don't want them keeping things like this from me ever again. But it's still hard even 5 years later. Story 19. Not really a lie and not negative at all, but my paternal grandfather isn't technically related to me. I found out several years after his death. He never once let on that he was my bastard of a biological father's stepfather. I am extremely grateful for that. He genuinely treated me so well. I will never meet my biological paternal grandfather. As far as I know, he's very dead or very much not someone I'd want to talk to. Same with my biological father, but he's alive last I checked, just in prison. He's done some evil shit. I learned all about that at 16, which was fun. Up till then, I just knew my biological father did something really bad when I was very young. He hit my mother one night and boom, never seen him again. Again, my stepfather, you'd never know I'm not his biological daughter. We fought like crazy when I was a teenager, but never ever about that. I wouldn't dare. I so wish I could truly speak to my grandpa one more time, seriously hug him, and thank him. He apparently always wanted to teach me to fly fish when I got old enough to have some interest. I wish I had cared more. It's been years now, though. So, not really big lies, but just earth-shattering stuff that recontextualized some things for me. I've had some good men in my life, probably why my standards are so high. Story 20. For 20 years, I thought I was an only child. Turns out, my dad had another family before he met my mom. I found out through a DNA test kit I got for Christmas. My new brother reached out to me a week later. Story 21. Mom lied about who my biological father was. I found out when I was 40. Sadly, Mom passed away when I was 28. Story 22. My maternal grandmother's family, who were Hungarian, fled their homeland sometime in the late 30s. The information is hard to verify due to the language barrier of Hungarian records. My great-grandfather, by owning a fairly upscale Budapest and frequented by both foreign and domestic government liaisons of various ranks, had caught wind of some less-than-ideal shenanigans coming down the pike. Less than ideal specifically for certain kinds of persons. Due to their being not wholly unfounded, a bit paranoid, upon landing in the USA, they informed the fine immigration folks they were a good and respectable Roman Catholic family. Spoiler: they were not a good and respectable Roman Catholic family. I knew nothing of this until my grandmother was on her deathbed. Her first one, separated by 8 years, when she and her 2 still living sisters felt that at 15 I was old enough to know. My mother had always known, but ignoring things she didn't want to deal with was her superpower, so. Story 23. Back in December, I found out my mom lied to me about who my father was for 24 years. Story 24. This is from high school, but one of the most popular guys in school asked me to my senior prom. We were in some of the same classes, but we were not friends and hadn't really spoken before. I was kind of a nerdy smart kid. He just came up to me and my best friend and asked me at lunch. I called our other best friend and said, "You are not going to believe who asked me to the prom." She responded, "Oh, popular guy? Yeah, someone told me, but I promised not to tell." 20 years later, I'm still impressed she kept that secret. We are all still very close friends, and it's an inside joke with us.
I said yes, and we had a very awkward prom because we were both teens and we weren't friends and we had never hung out outside of school. To be an awkward teen.
Story 25. My father lied about having terminal cancer. So, I guess he kept from me that he was actually healthy. He just wanted to keep my mom from divorcing him and me from leaving the family business. Story 26. They were polygamists and had other wives. He neglected to tell me this, of course. Story 27. 4 years and years. I believed my stepfather was my biological father. I was so very shocked when he told me, but it changed absolutely nothing between us. That man is still my rock, regardless of us not having shared DNA. Story 28. That you eat tamales with the corn husk still on. Chuckles lasted for about 5 years. The truth came out while eating Sunday brunch with my then-girlfriend and her extended Hispanic family. Story 29. My friend lied about wanting to be friends. He was really just waiting to ghost me. Story 30. That they were secretly still Trump supporters. I found out yesterday, and I'm devastated. Story 31. I found out through 23andMe. My older sister is actually my maternal aunt. I still don't know why I was lied to. When I started asking questions, I was told 23andMe was wrong. She then hid herself from my family tree. Story 32. My roommate in college was allegedly a senior and going to graduate that year. Turns out he actually dropped out or got kicked out halfway through his junior year. He would talk about his classes and occasionally ask one of us to drop him off for class or an exam. We lived with him for a year and had no idea. Story 33. My best friend sleeping with the girl I considered my best girlfriend. I always knew they had something between them, so it wasn't a shock. However, the 5 years it took to tell me. Story 34. My dad and stepmom lied to me for 14 years and told me that my stepmom was my biological mom. I only found out on my 14th birthday because my biological mom managed to track me down and was going to reach out, so they told me first. At least they could be the ones to tell me. They're really dedicated to the lie. I was an affair baby, so they really want to keep the reality of where I came from quiet. Story 35. That they, in fact, did not mean it when they said, "I love you and will never leave. I will be with you forever." Story 36. Pretending to be someone they're not and doing everything like me just to keep me close. Story 37. I found out my ex had killed someone in a car accident while driving naked after we broke up. Story 38. That my parents had an abortion when my mom was pregnant before I was born. I always wanted a sibling because they weren't very emotionally open with me. And I found out about this when I was around 15 or 16 years old. Story 39. I'll leave my husband as soon as my daughter finishes the 8th grade, 6 months from now. Never happened. Story 40. Great question. This actually opens doors. I'm hoping to learn from all the wisdom the people here are going to bring on board. Story 41. This question makes no sense. There's no such thing as keeping a lie from somebody. It should either be, what's the biggest secret someone's ever kept from you? Or what's the biggest lie someone's ever told you?
Chuckles super pedantic. It's the biggest lie that someone kept from you, and later you find out. So it's a big one that lasted some time.
Story 42. Not me, but a girl I know went to sleep with a guy, and one of his balls was the size of a grapefruit. Still slept with him, never asked. Married him. Story 43. Well, that's tough to say because I don't even know the whole truth. But I guess we'll see how it all shakes out.